Just quickly, guys, I'm really sorry that I didn't check the audio properly because I thought I had edited out some of the sound because I live in a street where it's busy and I normally go through and make sure that there's no additional audio. So I'll just create a second video and just with the end of it, I'll just put re-edited. So I just want to quickly say also for the Medbed appointments, Sky or Kerry basically had was chatting with our leader on Telegram and basically said the maximum amount of languages that you can have downloaded to your brain is 5. And here's an idea. I just get things in my brain as I think, I'll share it. There's no app online where you can just sit here and you're editing a video and you tell the AI to create the captions and to basically work out the voice and what each word that they're saying. That is amazing technology. So you could maybe ask to download information about technology. AI type technology. So there's a business plan for someone. Thought I'd just share that. And you could ask the AI to you just download copy a video or whatever, and then just basically tell the AI, just like those AI type audio videos where you could just write in a few captions, words, what you want them to create. Hey, there's the number one technology. You'll be making multi-billion dollars. Because it's not out there. Anyway, thought I'd share that. Regarding the Medbed, have a list on the left, things that you want changed to your body. Any changes on the right, have as much knowledge you want downloaded to your brain. What do you want to do?
Hello, everyone. Wowsy. I am recording it, so those who are not available get to hear this because this is really, really important stuff. So been pretty quiet today on my side on Telegram because I was in calls for about 2.5, 3 hours today. So I've just gone through and taken a few notes. So, how is everyone? I hope everyone is super, super good. So thanks for joining us, Tony, Chris, Heather, Carol's in the house in Phoenix. Wonderful. Some massive, massive updates. I'm going to put this together, but it won't be as concentrated as this is for all of you. So I will do one on the main channel, but it won't have as much information as this one. So let's get started. So this call was a private call. This is with some very interesting people in the sense that they, and I know we hear this from other gurus, but they do have some very special people connected to this US Treasury, to military, to A to Z, I think it is, and things like that as well. So, I was very honoured and very privileged to be their guest, one of their guest speakers today. So it's the first time I've actually done a call for someone else as well, or with someone else. So I was actually a little bit scared, which is kind of weird. But normally it's just me talking, and we had a little bit of a Q&A type situation as well. If I do get that recording and I'm allowed to share it, it's about just over 2 hours long, actually. But there's some very super cool RV highlights and stuff in there as well. So I'll see how I go, but I'll give you as much as I possibly can. So a lot of it was to do with regarding the latest update was, now this is not about stalling or anything like that. So what happens is we would have heard about the Chinese elders. We've often heard them in our process of this journey. So what's actually happened there is that they actually did change the treaties very slightly. All the treaties were re-signed, all 209 countries that are involved in the gold revaluation or the golden age. And of course, DJT come out with 17 whales. The 17 whales are part of the Global Gold Council, that being the Chinese elders' families and several other bits and pieces. So those 17 collected people. So that was definitely a big comm for us in the sense of the RV actually happening. So that was rather exciting to get that confirmation as well. So every Treasury has now signed the changes to what needed to be changed. And here is a little bit of a down structure of what actually was discussed. So I got to speak first, which again, like I said, was a bit overwhelming. But we talked about a little bit about the RV, a bit about myself, and what's happening in the world on my side. And then we talked about, then we had a gentleman come on. I can't name his name. I don't know why there has to be so much secrecy. But anyway, be it as it may, he came on and lovely, lovely gentleman, very genuine, very spiritual. Really enjoyed his actual intel. So we talked a lot about this, the 209 countries, of course. We went on to talk about holistic healing and things like that as well. So I got to talk then about, of course, the holistic planning and the holistic accounting and how everything is part of the new alliance that we talked about in our holistic planning voice message as well. So I just talked about healing yourself, how your phone is going to be part of your healing, using the biometrics and things like that as well. And a lady did come up and said that they are working on the Medbed healing app to go on your phone, which I was not aware of, but the information that I was researching indicated that your phone will be part of your healing. We see this quite often with diabetes and general health and well-being, but this one is very, very much specific in the sense of the quantum healing and our frequencies and things like that as well. So leading into your appointment, we did touch a little bit, not a lot, on your frequency as you go to your appointment, but I'll reveal some more about that shortly. This gentleman was talking about how there's new angels have arrived here on Earth, those who understand the off-planet situation and how they have arrived. These are our new angels, so to speak, and new beginnings are about to occur. So that was very exciting. We all resonated with that during the call, so that was fantastic. What he did talk about was, of course, on Tuesday this week at 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time in the US, Tier 3 paymasters accounts are liquid, which is quite interesting because I always toy with this whole Tier 3 being paid out and this, that and all the rest of it. Now, they are saying, and again, as I say, I think certain selective people have been paid. I'm not sure about the whole parallel system of these tiers over there, but that's what they're saying. They also stated that on Wednesday, 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, that 1% of Tier 4A paymasters groups were liquid, meaning that these funds are in through a paymasters group. These are groups that have been aggregated many, many years ago. As I said, let that play out in the United States. There is some groups here in Australia, because I was not part of one, but I was under an NDA regarding one of those groups, so to speak, in Tier 4A. I then relinquished myself from that because of things that didn't resonate with me. So moving right along, that's okay. As I said, then we saw DJT come out and confirm what had happened during the week when he confirmed about the 17 whales. So that was actually relevant to all of that. The gentleman did come out and state that the RV and boat show that is happening in RENO or just outside of Reno somewhere, is no coinkydinky. That is part of our comms, he said. He did mention, which I resonated with, was the 4 new regions. So the Earth will be divided from north, south, east, and west. And we've often heard and talked about the transfer of wealth that happened from east to west. So that definitely looks like it's happening. He mentioned about the price of gold reaching a very significant number. And I did some research on this and I was like, oh, that was really cool. So gold has now reached, I think it closed yesterday or overnight at $3,115 per ounce. Now, normally it's 0.65 or something to that effect. But that apparently was the actual marker that they needed to hit for them to actually release the beast, so the beast, but the gold standard, so to speak. So that was very exciting. He went on to explain about there's an 80% chance, depending on some backline stuff that's going on with lawyers and attorneys. We still, as I always say, there's some dominion still in the system. It's not to say that it won't go, but there is an 80% chance they were talking about on this call that notifications will come out tomorrow. So again, as I always say, I'm just sharing this because what was very interesting, how that all came about, was they were talking about the actual setup. So these changes that I was talking about in the Gold Council and things like that as well, were relating to, and it's not to restrict us, but it's also to keep us on a level playing field. And what they actually did, they said that at this point in time, this is based in the US. So understand, the beautiful Anne Morgan is in the house. Hello, Anne. So this is based, as I said, in the US. Okay. So what happens there is that they're talking about over 10 million people in the US are currency holders. We sort of spoke to a gentleman here in Australia. So Mel actually got the actual contact for here in Australia, which again, as I said, is a huge, huge honour. They're saying, this kind of blew me away, but here in Australia, we have 1.125 million people who are currency holders here in Australia. That's quite a lot. It's a lot more than what I expected as well. But because over in the States, as I said, they have all the tiers, they have all this. So based upon the amount of currencies that they hold over in the US and the amount of currency holders, they are saying that the minimum payout in the US, now hold on to your seats, ladies and gentlemen, this was kind of huge, was $20 million. Wowza. That was, so they are expecting up to $100 billion to be paid out in the currency exchanges. So that is going to be linked to gold. But I'll get into that in a little short minute as well, because this will blow your waves. That's hence why I'm recording it. So if you have missed the beginning of it, and certainly go back, and anyone else, please, go back and listen to the beginning part of it as well. This is going to create some challenges for many people. That is a lot of money. That's the minimum that they're expecting. It's quite profound in a sense when you start hearing the figures. So they're working, as I said, in the background. There's doing many things. They have clearly stated that it will be 60 days to redeem and exchange. I'm not going to talk about the rates, about the US, because that's kind of irrelevant. So I'm going to focus on the Australian ones and give you an explanation, and we'll go through that as well. Now, hold on to your seats when he mentioned that the Bolivar is not going to be a part of the redemption. everyone kind of took a bit of a deep breath, but there is reasons for that. So if you are holding Bolivar, please bear with me because I'll get through that when I go into the Australian side of it, so it's a lot more understanding. Pengos and the bonds, of course, will be trunched, they said. So if you hold Hungarian Pengos from 1936 and things like that as well, if not, just flush it. Don't panic about it. The Zims and agro checks, we were told today, are not going to be as much as what has been quoted. Again, this is not taking it out on Mark Z or any of the other gurus. This is what we've been told because, as I said, I am now in the crunch of releasing this to Australia and the rest of the world. So I'm going to be fair, but I'm going to be also very, very honest with what was being said. I know that there was a lot of figures running around especially through Mark. Again, I'm not blaming him. It's not a criticism at all. But we were just told that that management appointment. So as I said, it's 12 to 15 minutes long. It goes directly into your already quantum accounts. So all your fiat accounts that you have right now are quantum. And I actually had a confirmation story the other day from someone very high up in one of the banks here in Australia confirming that. So please understand that your accounts that you have now are already quantum and they are already mirrored into the quantum system. So you've gone to your exchange, you've had your exchange appointment, all of that currency goes straight into your fiat account. So you have up to 3 months for your personal preferences, how you would like it set up. Take it all in so as you may like to set your accounts up differently. Then you may like to make an appointment with a wealth manager or financial advisor, holistic financial advisor or someone like that. So that's entirely up to you. There will be a client information sheet that they have put together in the post for for me today. So as soon as I see that, I'll definitely post it over. If you see it over an RV process, and please feel free, honey, to post it back over here as well for me. So that will be, so it just goes straight into your ordinary bank account. So there is no trust accounts. Wow, this was big. I've been saying this for a long time. All the hoo-ha over trust accounts, even in the US. Wowza, this was big. Oh my gosh, like I said, a lot of people may be a little bit upset or concerned, but there is no need for a trust account, including in the US. So that was rather interesting. So as I said, they went on to a much bigger conversation about trust lines in the crypto blockchain and things like that as well. But we will go through that as time progresses. So because that's another whole different set of rules and regulations. I came on again and I was talking about the transition period and how because people couldn't get their head wrapped around this whole less than 1 cent for 1 litre of milk. And I said, think of it as in the old Vikings times and stuff where they used to use seashells as shell currency. And of course, that was one of our comms in the Q post was about shell. We all thought it was just about oil, but it's also about shell currency. So there is a post in the main channel regarding shell currency. It's actually a good read. So you definitely need to open up your mind about the shell currency. So we'll get through all of that. As I said, things will be trunched. Certain things will be trunched, as in the Pengos and the bonds will be trunched. I didn't think they were going to do that, but I think as I said, they have changed the rules just in the last few days or whatever. So your superannuation, they talked about their 401ks over in the United States. As I said, they are happy and convinced that they will have access to their super. I think here in Australia, it will be still, we will have more access to our super because superannuation platform is with ANZ here in Australia, and it'll be the same for those in New Zealand. But New Zealanders don't actually have a forced superannuation. So it will behave slightly differently. But here in Australia, you will have access to your super funds and things like that as well. And you will have more ability to link it to gold, silver, platinum, palladium, and things like that. So you get to actually work inside your account and instead of having someone else monitoring that or, trading it on the stock market and things like that as well from your previous state. When you get access to that is still quite unknown. I think they have reduced the retirement age to 55. Yay, lucky for me. We'll see what happens there, but I haven't had a chance to go in and have a good look around in that sector, but definitely interesting how they said about the 55-year age group. So very interesting times. Of course, everyone is talking about the XPR network that I released the other day, and people are doing some more research for me in the background. They're so fascinated about it, which is really good and exciting on my side as well. So this is basically, it's really starting to look like this is like the government wholesale CBDC within America. So this is, as I said, the bridge from the American Federal Reserve into their US Treasury. So they are definitely running on XPR network, not XRP, but XPR, sorry. Some tough questions came about. They were saying 330,000 US dollars per billion amounts of agro checks. That is not going to be the case. It's still a very, very good rate that they're going to get. It's not that bad, although they're just setting everyone down because we don't want that high expectations. And as I always said, this is why I don't like talking about rates, because rates are going to change. And as I said, I'm not going to talk about the rates coming out of the US. I'm going to be talking about the rates for Australia. To give you an actual example of what I have been talking about for many, many years. So that was very interesting. But the rates on the 100 T notes are around about 11 million per 100 T notes in the US, okay? The reason I'm not talking about dinar and dong at the moment, because as I said, it's an example that I want to save at the end. So all of the, so if you haven't already noticed, as I said, a lot of my admin have disappeared because they were doing certain things in the background as to didn't sit. And one of those things was, of course, and again, this is not criticism, people have their own opinions, but it's interesting how times have actually changed. We had admins who were adamant that the 100 T note was 1-to-1 and this, that, and all the rest of it. And I kept saying, no, that is not true. And they kept posting in my main channel and things like that as well. And it got to the point where I said, no, enough's enough. It doesn't sit with me. My channel is a reflection of me. So a few people got a little bit hurt and offended in the last week, and have gone and done some other things as a backlash. But it goes to prove to me that, as I said, these are going to be challenging times. I stand tall. I certainly wouldn't have been chosen to release this if it wasn't, if they didn't feel I was deemed true and accurate. But I just put that out there so as we go through this process of, yes, it wasn't as big as what we thought, but this is why I've been saying for many, many years, do not get hyped on rates, because every country is going to be slightly different. And as I said, when I get to the Australian rates, this will make a lot more sense as well. But just putting it out there that, and again, some of these rates could change at the last minute as well. But understand that not everything is going to be what the hype and the expectations were for many, many years. And as I said, I think a lot of things, and I did mention it in this live chat today, that I think a lot of things have exploded for people's egos, so to speak. So yeah, the whole project thing was very interesting because the appointment is only going to be for 12 to 15 minutes long. That has been confirmed again to me today. So if you are going to mention that you have a project, listen very, very carefully. And I want you to think about this because I reflected on this for most of the afternoon. I took some sort of time out to meditate. When we talk about, say, people like Elon Musk or someone to that caliber, now we know it's not Elon, I know that. But what I'm saying is people who are geniuses do not speak long verses or anything like that. So when this gentleman was explaining to me, if you do have a project and you happen to mention that you have a project, they actually said something very specific, which kind of got me thinking about Elon and a few other things as well. But they said, if you have a project, it has to be 5 words or less, no more than 5 words. And I thought that was rather interesting because I went back and had a look at some of the things that Elon Musk and people like Dan Scavino and things like that. I mean, these people are geniuses. Whoever is underneath the mask or what is irrelevant, but they're still geniuses. And they only ever put more than 5 words up, do they? So if you are going to mention your project, these people were talking about 5 words to describe your project. So that's very interesting. Now, the projects do come in different levels. I'm not going to go through that right now because it's going to bombard you enough with all of this exciting information. But there is 5 different levels of projects that are available. They're based upon basically the amount of people be employing, how many jobs you're going to create. So there's a list of things. I'm not going to go through it, but there's an A, B, C, D, and E platform level for projects as to that. And of course, the 5 defining words that you create for your project, if you're big on project or projects, certainly summarize them, but only in 5 words apparently. So just something to think about. So moving forward with all of that, we went into a discussion, of course, about the just the general economy and what's going to actually happen. Okay, so we talked about milk being less than 1 cent. 1 litre of milk for less than 1 cent. Boom, shakalaka. So what happens there? Because the first question that comes up, of course, is like, well, what happens to the farmers? Well, the farmers actually, I've always said this, if you go back and listen to some of my videos, when I talk about Nasara and Jasara, Nasara was originally the Farmers Act. And over in the States and many other countries, and we're starting to see that in many countries such as Africa, India, Egypt, Tanzania, all of these other countries, are actually the government is supporting the agriculture, the farmers, and things like that as well. So when Nasara, it won't be kind of announced, I think it just actually happens, where the farmers will actually get paid. They actually get paid. We don't have to pay for the milk because we're paying for taxes. Remember, taxes don't go away. So you're already paying for it. And what you're basically paying for is just the exchange, or think of it as if we're paying an XLM or crypto, which is now called currency, because I took the word crypto out of it now. So when you're paying for currency, you're just paying for that transaction. So it's just that's why milk is going to be like less than 1 cent, because you're only paying for the transaction to exchange for that milk. Does that make sense? I hope it makes sense. Anyway, so that was another discussion that we had as well, because we talked about the 1955 prices and things like that as well. So that was a very cool conversation. I really enjoyed that part of it. So getting to the actual appointment, though, it will be streamlined, and these are with skilled people, which got confirmed with me today. I've said this about a month or so ago, that these people are very well trained. He did point out some very interesting things about they've learned to interview you Now, what he means by that is, as I said, is the whole frequency and things like that as well. So as long as you are not aggressive, you're not asking for higher rates and this, that, and all the rest of it, they will interview you. As much as that sounds a little bit daunting, please don't be daunted by that. These people, as I said, are holistic people. They will be, as I said, specifically trained in this area. They are very compromising and for everyone's situation and what have you. And they reiterated about the security of where these places are going to be and things like that as well. So they, over in the States, of course, they have the military, they have drones and things like that as well. They virtually go around between, I think it's 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. or 2 and 5 a.m. and they actually go through and check all the security and things like that as well. So, so that's very, very important moving forward as well. They said about cell phones, your cell phones are going to be okay to take in there. So it's up to you whether you want to switch it off for your security purposes. So you're not being located. Some people have this whole location thing, this, that, and all the rest of it. So that's all good. So he did verify as well that the exchange is definitely separate to that of the wealth. Again, I've been sitting on this for some time and I'm tired of being kind of pussyfooting around it. So I'm going to be tough. And it's not about criticising or condemning, but I'm going to put this out there. This is what was said about yellow dragon bonds. Now, I've heard many, many stories about them. So it is what it is. But I'm going to tell you. Okay, I'm not going to keep this a secret anymore. The yellow dragon bonds, the guy was asked the question and he just starts literally laughing out loud. And I mean, he was laughing, ladies and gentlemen. And this concerns me and upsets me in many ways. But he's saying they are all garbage. That is his opinion. Let's just see what happens. Let it ride. He said, do not count on them. He sort of retracted a little bit because he realised people were going, what? But he said, look, don't count on them. That's what he's saying. So hopefully we get to hear a little bit more about that. Now, the other story that I had heard, and this was quite some time ago, and that's why I don't say too much about it because I tread very lightly because it still seems to upset the apple cart. Because we're still human beings and we still get attached to certain things. So certain people, of course, have been very attached to their yellow dragon bonds. But many, many months, or be nearly a year ago, I was actually informed that if you were to have 20 railway carriages of yellow dragon bonds filled up, you'd be lucky to find 4 that are actually legit. And that's the truth, ladies and gentlemen. I'm tired of pussyfooting around it. So, but please, if you hold them, because some people I know still hold actual yellow dragon bonds, and they were believed to be true and accurate. Apparently there was a lot, and I'm talking 20 railway carriages was what I was told, full of yellow dragon bonds. The gentleman did say, please take them in because the very few rare ones have still not been found. And you may just hold that rare yellow dragon bond. Now, in saying that, as other people have told me, you may get some kind of compensation for that as well. So please, I'm just telling you the truth. But please take everything in with you. Please take everything in with you. Okay? So so that if you get something back in return for your payment out. But that's what was said from this particular gentleman that was on the call. So We asked him about other dragon bonds, such as red dragon bonds, black dragon bonds, white dragon bonds, and he says none of the above have he seen come through in any of the payment systems that he has been involved in, including all of Tier 3 and all of Tier 4A. So that was rather interesting. He did say there was a few green dragon bonds. Interesting. I got to speak very briefly about the green dragon bonds because I've been talking about the green bonds through Iraq and Australia. So that was very, very important as well. So he did say that they are also very rare, but he did say that they do have machines that can authorise those, and there is some security features on those green dragon bonds. So we'll see. And again, you might be already holding a dragon bond, and it could be one of those green ones. You may have thought that it was red or yellow or something to that effect. But please, as I said, make sure you take them in because there is a lot of, special features and things like that as well. As for receipts, a lot of people often ask about receipts. No receipts are required. They are not needed to go to your appointment. So that was verified. As I said, 12 to 15 minutes. I have spoken briefly about the Q card being possibly some form of RENO ledger. That was actually confirmed. Similar to a RENO ledger, but, they can't tell you everything, but I'm pretty sure I was over the marker on that one as well. So they did talk about that. They talked about husband and wife teams and things like that as well. Everything still functions the same here in Australia as it normally would if you were having a dual account and things like that as well. So nothing technically changes. So as for the Australian reset, I'm going to talk about the 60 cents or 50 to 60 cents we're at now to $1. And I happened to ask a gentleman here in Australia who's running the RV in Australia. I asked him, and this is my take on it. I said, the moment we're at 60 cents, when we have the reset, Australia's dollar is going to be $1.36 to $1.51. He says, pretty close. So he's not going to tell me if I'm right or not anyway, but that was a great confirmation. So what happens is this goes for all other countries. I explained to everyone on the call today that this still happens for all countries as well. So not all countries have a revaluation, hence why the Bolivar is not going in this basket, so to speak. But there is a good reason for that one as well. Because of the amount of Bolivar that has been printed, and I'm not sure whether that's going to affect other countries such as Argentina and things like that as well. But I know that in Venezuela's, they have like 4, if not 5 different currencies that they have been printing crazy like overprinting them. And the reason that they're not going to cash in the Bolivar, so to speak, is because the amount of printing and fake probably Bolivar that's out there as well. So what they're going to be doing is, as I said, take everything into your appointment. The Bolivar will be trunched as well. So they will take it. I will give you the list of the 5 currencies that we believe are going to be redeemed here or exchanged here in Australia, and the rest you still take in, and they will be SKR'd, which is a safekeeping receipt. Now, when you do your research, they're going to say SKRs don't exist anymore, but they still do. I've had confirmation of that by this gentleman and other bankers inside the banks. So they will SKR. So it's kind of like having a check, and that check will be cashed later on. So they'll give you a receipt called an SKR, or a check basically saying in your ledger. So in your digital ledger, it will show you that you have sent in X amount of Bolivar, this, that, and all the rest of it. And once that's been verified and things like that as well, you will then be paid and trunched out of that, because obviously the Bolivar is going to be revalued at quite a high rate as well. That's the only reason why they would be trunching it. And what a trunch is that you will get paid 1%, 5%, 10%. It will be done in stages. That's what trunching, and that means if you hear that as well. So I'll think before I get into the Medbed appointments and that, I will just let you know a little bit more about Australia. There is an NDA on the actual rates on the SKRs and things like that as well. So the gentleman was explaining that the NDA is only for 2 weeks, which I thought was interesting timing. Being 2 weeks takes us up, is that when they're going to publicly announce certain things? Just putting that out there. I just thought that was interesting. So the NDA is only on the actual rate per se, and it's only for 2 weeks, apparently. Those who have high volumes or have many trunched currencies will probably have an NDA for 12 months, which I thought was rather interesting, because even Mark Z said we're not going to have NDAs. But again, as I said, with the changes that occurred this last week, they may have brought that back in. So it'll be interesting to see what Mark Z has to say about NDAs and that now. We'll see. There is going to be some form of, like, I call it a doggy bag, but that's a terrible thing to say, but like a gift kind of bag. So my understanding is there will be 2 people behind the desk for your currency exchange and redeeming, and one of those people will guide you into the next step, because as I said, this appointment is only supposed to last for 12 minutes. So they will give you a selection of notes. I believe there is some letter or notes from the Australian Treasury. So they will give you notes and guidelines, things like that as well, possibly about the taxation system or whatever. I don't know what's going to be involved in all of that. So that was rather interesting. And there was something else back here. So the 5 currencies here in Australia are going to be Iraqi dinar, Indonesian rupiah, Zimbabwe, agro checks, and dong. Apparently, the Iranian Rial and Bolivar and all of them, and Pengo are all going to be SKR'd and trunched, as I said. So any other currencies outside of that, still take them to your appointment, but those are the 5 that they are going to pay out as far as I know. So we will see. We will be going to a blended office. That was a good confirmation, because as I said, I've seen in buildings that resemble banks and private banking, these are called blended offices. So that's rather cool. In New Zealand, apparently there is only 2 big centres. They've got one in North Island and one in the South Island for New Zealand. So that's all he could tell me at this point in time. So as for the Medbeds, there is going to be a system protocol. So this guy was very uncomfortable on talking about it, because I don't think it sits well with him as well. But there is a system protocol for the Medbeds, and our understanding is that 3 weeks after your appointment for your exchange, you will be able to go to your Medbed appointment. And so that's all I can tell you on that side. I think years ago it was like a Tesla card with a QR code on it, and so you will scan that, and 3 weeks after your appointment, you will have your Medbeds appointment. So we'll see how that one unfolds. That's an interesting system protocol, is the only thing that he could tell us about the Medbed appointments. Someone did ask me about arrests in Australia. there possibly could be some kind of indicator on the around the 4th or the 5th of April here in Australia. They've actually stated there may not be an actual public arrest here in Australia, which is kind of frustrating, and I know that. We would all love to see some form of arrest, so to speak. So we'll see how that all pans out, okay? But the indicators are that something possibly could give us an indicator of some sort. But as for actual physical arrests, I don't think we're actually going to see it. I think in larger countries such as France, Canada, places like that, where people in those countries, so take for instance France, if something was to happen with Macron, say for instance, they'd be all out in the street protesting and cheering and things like that as well. We just don't do that here in Australia. So, okay, again, every country will have different aspects that will still show us that the world is changing. But as for arrests in Australia, my understanding is that that's not going to actually happening, which is a bit of a bummer in a sense. Okay, so to finish it off, and I'll open it up for a quick Q&A, probably about 15 minutes or so. Australia's dinar rate, this was rather interesting. Hold on to your seats, ladies and gentlemen. $31.42. And the Vietnamese dong is going to be $21.33. That's what I was told. So, yeah, that kind of blew my mind. Bit different to my 69 cents. So, but yeah, so yeah, so there you go. So, so if there's any questions before I go, sorry for the lateness, but I've had an extremely long day. As I said, I've been on calls and just wanted to digest all of that as well. So hopefully you can unmute yourself if you do have a question, because I know that someone was saying last time they couldn't unmute themselves to the thing. So, but yeah, we'll see. So if you got any questions, certainly leave them in the chat. Just use the A+ thing and I'll get to them in due course. So send it directly to me, because sometimes I skip through sometimes just to get through all your beautiful chat. But if there is questions and things, just leave them there for me, and I'll certainly catch up with them. But otherwise, this is recorded. I hope someone like Carol, who is a monitor or admin in this group, get to see it. Feel free to post it. But as I said, please do not get caught up in the rates and things like that as well. And by the way, the expectation is us going after the 2nd or 3rd of next week. So we will see what happens. I think with the indicators coming in from the contracts in the blockchain, I'm thinking more likely towards the end of next week, around the 5th, 4th and 5th. We will wait and see how it pans out. But I can certainly tell you that there is definitely movement. As I said, I don't like to give hopium. I've never done that. I've never come on here every day to do it. But I certainly hope that, yeah, that helps. And as I said, I will put together some minor points and put them up tomorrow in Sizzling Sunday for everyone for their RV update. But as a courtesy to the beautiful Carol, Heather, Chris, Tony, Phoenix, and I think Anne was in earlier. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining me tonight. Apologise for the lateness, but just wanted to pop in and share that with all of you. So thank you very much. We'll catch us all later. All right. Bye for now.